Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of the MultiDimensional MD. My name is Dr. Arlene Diamco, and I'm an integrative physician, a pediatrician, and a cranial osteopath. And my mission is to help wake up medicine, to help bring those intangible aspects of health, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, more practical and more tangible for you so that you can use them in a practical way. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. So today I wanted to continue the conversation of talking about stress and anxiety, and this time specifically for teens, because I don't have all the answers. And talking about it really helps to get ideas. And believe me, I'm in the same boat as you. So I have 4 girls and 2 are in the teen years. And stress and anxiety in the world right now are at an all-time high. And I don't know any teenager that has said that it's just been an easy breezy year for them. They go through a lot in a normal world without the pandemic, and they're going through a lot right now. And this is, change can be really healthy, but it's how can we approach it in a way that can make things smoother for them. But it's also not about fixing it, because stress and anxiety are normal. And that's also something good to realize and good to help your teen realize too, that this is a normal part of life. Because, so much we just would like to fix things sometimes. It's really difficult to see your kid of any age going through something uncomfortable. It's so hard. If we could wave a magic wand, we would so want them to have a fulfilling life of joy and happiness. But inevitably, everyone goes through something. So one thing is, how can you help without controlling? So this is a really interesting idea because we so want to help our kids, and we want to help other people too. But as author Anne Lamott said, and I heard this on a Tim Ferriss podcast, helping is the sunny side of control. So you have to know for yourself, why are you helping? Is it because it's so difficult for you to see? So is it about your own feelings about it, that you need to fix the situation or change it? Or, are you coming from understanding, and is your help welcome? Like, are you being asked for help? So these are just things to consider. And it's, we are meant to be social creatures and we're meant to help each other, but it's very important to know how you're helping and where that is coming from. A second thing just to talk about in general is, and this is something that my kids had mentioned, was to be specific. Because we talked about, paying attention to breathing, and one of the things they said, it's like, well, you can't just say like, pay attention to your breathing. It's like you have to break it down into more specific components. And sometimes they don't necessarily want help in terms of treating. Again, this is like not trying to control the situation. Maybe that's not the kind of help they want right now. So sometimes, some teens are going to be more receptive to doing some breath work, but maybe at a certain moment, maybe when it's really intense, it's not something that they're used to doing, or they're receptive to hearing. So their timing can be important. And then when you do go through recommendations, or you want to make sure that you want to have their permission too. So you could ask them, do you want to brainstorm things together, ideas of like how to address this situation, and see what they say. If they don't want to talk about it right then it's also being patient and holding space for them, and knowing that you love them no matter what. So you don't have to rush it for them, that you can stay with them. You can be in the same room with them without feeling like you always have to be doing something. The third thing is, in terms of a general approach, is not to make it about you. And so this was another request that my kids had made. And it's so easy because we are, I mean, adults are going through their own things, and you could be tired, you could be hungry, you could be pretty stressed yourself. And, you know, most people in the world are dealing with some sort of stress and anxiety. So when your kid starts to voice concerns, then it can be so easy to feel like, oh gosh, you know, this is another thing that weighs on you, when they are asking you to really just hear them out and to understand them. And to help show that you understand them, maybe you could paraphrase, you know, what they said to you, because that can feel good when you're talking to somebody. And just to clarify, it's like, you know, is this your concern? You know, is it about COVID? Are you know, what exactly about COVID is it? Are you concerned that you're going to get sick? Are you concerned that you're going to catch it and give it to somebody else? They will get sick. And, you know, to kind of tease it apart. And maybe it's a little of all of the above, but you might find that there are certain details that are more just intense for your teen at that time. So, and that can help in the understanding. And so not to make assumptions that what your main concerns are this exact same concerns as your kids. There's going to be overlap, no doubt, but it's in those nuances that a person can feel really understood. Because if you're making the assumption that they're thinking, feeling about it in the same way, then they're not going to feel as heard as if you can flesh out some details with them, if they want to, and if they and again, just reflect it and paraphrase and see if you got it right. Because if you didn't, then ask for clarity. The fourth thing is to spend quality time doing regular activities, because there's so much, you know, sometimes we want to plan like really big things, and some, you know, in this last year and a half, we don't always get a chance to plan the big things. So it's really seeing the precious moments in the everyday activities. So this could be simply, you know, having a meal a week, maybe one-on-one with your teen, because I have a whole range of ages in my house. So the younger ones tend to just by nature need more time, be more demanding in terms of helping. We have to help them get their food and things like that. And then the older ones are much more independent. So it can be easily the time can easily be sucked up by spending more time with the younger ones, when the older ones need time too, but they're not always asking you directly for it. So it's not to put them on the spot to be like, hey, do you want to spend time like us just, you don't want to necessarily make it like such a big deal that you're spending time having to do like a big thing. So it's seeing what you can do in terms of just having like small activities together. Again, maybe just running an errand together, maybe having a meal together, maybe just saying like, hey, I'm gonna go out and do this. You want to hang out with me? Do you want to go for a drive with me? Any little thing, go for a walk. It just, what is it that you do in your everyday that maybe you could take some one-on-one time and do that together. So it's often in these like moments that don't seem like a big deal that can be the most bonding and can be like really precious time where you get to talk, because there's no pressure to be talking. It's not like you're setting aside time to say like, hey, let's talk about this really big thing. Like that can feel like putting a spotlight. And we could feel like that too. It's like if somebody says, hey, I have something really big that I want to talk to you about. Let's talk about it at this time. Then you know that all that time is dedicated to like something really big, and you make you feel nervous. But if it was like, a friend or spouse or was like, hey, do you want to go for a walk with me? I'm going to go walk the dog. It's like, okay, sure. Yeah, why not? And then in that just regular chatting time, you can chat about just life, just again, just what's going on in their lives and share what's going on for you too. So I'm going to go through 4 things not to say. And I have said all of these things to my kids, and I'm going to talk about like things that you can say instead. So the first thing is, this is hard. So don't say it's going to be okay, because what if it's not? And in this pandemic, there have been many situations where it's not been okay, and that's in life in general too. So teens know that things are unpredictable, but they're also often looking for a guarantee as they figure out their way in the world. And it's not like, sometimes they'll do it up front and sometimes they're doing it like more subconsciously. But I mean, I feel like every parent would like a guarantee too that their kid, again, has a happy and fulfilling life. And it's hard to not know what's going to happen, but it's a part of living. So it's also how you define okay that matters, because okay for me means something different than what it might mean for my kids when I say it's okay, because I have to be really specific, because when you say it's okay or it's like going to be okay, it can feel dismissive to a person's feelings. So then I learned, I was like, okay, I need to clarify. It's okay to feel stressed or anxious, like to really add that detail. And again, it's like being specific about it, not just saying it's okay, but it's actually okay to feel sad sometimes. It's okay to feel stressed and anxious. We're going through a lot, and there's lots of changes, and this can be a normal part of just growing. And the stress and anxiety, sometimes it can propel us, motivate us to shift and change. So it can be used in a good way. And that's the part where I say, how can I grow through this? So how can we grow through this together as a family? And I'm learning too, and this is part of why I'm sharing this with you, because I wanted to flush out some details for myself and share what I've learned with you too, of what didn't feel quite right. And then the next time, how can I do it in a way that feels more connected, that my kids can feel like that I really understand them even more. So know what okay means to you. And again, I tend to use it in more grander perspective, but that's not how my kids are using it. So if I say it's going to be okay, or if I say it's okay, I can't just leave it at that. I have to make it more specific. It's okay. It's normal to feel stressed and anxious. Okay. And the second thing not to say is, don't say calm down. I just start hearing that Taylor Swift song. You got to calm down, down, down. And I've said this so many times. And usually when I say this, it's when I'm feeling kind of worked up too, because there's so many moving parts, and the animals and the kids, and there's so much going on in the house. And then it's just like, calm down. Or, of course, if you say it like that, it's it's hypocritical, right? If you yell calm down, you're not actually calm. So not really believable. Calm down can also, just like it's okay, can sound dismissive. So I can understand, why it feels good to say it. But maybe instead of someone is feeling worked up, if you feel like it's appropriate, maybe you could just like put your hand on your kid's shoulder, on their back, and let that kind of loving touch without words make the connection to help them feel it's okay going through whatever they're going through. And then knowing that you're there for them will help them calm down without having to say it. Or just sometimes I like to just like, again, you have to know your kid, because maybe they don't really want anyone to be near them or touching them, but sometimes it can feel good. Someone just like kind of rub your back in a downwards way just to help ground. If that's too much movement, just, one simple hand on the back can feel okay. If it's not welcome, then don't do it. Maybe just sit with a little bit of space if they don't want you so close. Like sit on the couch or wherever you are with some space, and help yourself realize how you feel, so that you can calm yourself into the moment. That how can I feel okay with this moment with my kid, with my teen? And how I can feel okay with it is reminding myself, I love my kid no matter what. I love my child, my teen, whatever age they are. I love her no matter what. And that makes everything okay. So then I can sit here and know that they're going through something really hard, but it can be like the same thing as thinking of a little kid going through a difficult moment or crying, or maybe they're acting out and having a tantrum, and knowing that you can hold space. And the first thing is to help yourself. So to breathe through it, recognize your emotions so that you don't dismiss your own emotions, and then bring your energy down so that your teen can feel that. This is a holding space for them. The third thing not to say is don't just say, just do it. And I've said that too. Because, there's a lot of different things that I could suggest, but my kids aren't my patients, and they don't necessarily want my advice at the moment. And so even though I could probably say like a dozen things off the top of my head, it doesn't mean that that's what they want to do at the moment. So it doesn't mean that they're welcoming suggestions. And so again, it's like checking in with, do you want me to help you brainstorm? Do you want to think of things together? Here are some ways you could, but you don't have to. It's up to you. So helping empower them with choices instead of saying, well, just do it, just try it. Although sometimes I wish they would, right? So, but offering choices, and then it's up to them, because that helps them have some sort of control in their world, in their life, when things feel unpredictable and out of control. And when they have so much weighing on them, then they can see some ways. And maybe they don't say anything, but maybe it sinks in later, and they try it on their own. Because that could happen, whether from the tension release exercises that I teach, or doing a little EFT tapping or some breathing exercises. You don't always know what sinks in. And as I get older, I see, of course, they want their independence. And this is a part of learning and growing. And we're like that at every age, but it's ever more learning how to be independent. When you're really little, the 2-year-old, they want to put the buckle in. So they still want to be independent, but of course they really aren't. So you let them do what they can as they're learning. And then at every age, it's like that. Those safe boundaries are ever expanding. And so you always want to leave room for that growth. So you're not calling on all the shots. You're not saying everything. You're not controlling their world for them, that you're giving choices and ever expanding choices, and leaving room for, now that the kids are older, leaving room for them to also think of ways that they might want to deal with it. And there's so many things that I think about, again, in my world. It's just like how I talk about things, the wording doesn't always translate to them. So even like being in the present moment doesn't always translate to me understanding them, because they're like, well, then that's like saying tomorrow doesn't matter or yesterday doesn't matter. So it's talking about things in a different way. And for me, I realize it's like, of course, yesterday, tomorrow, it's all part of us. But to move forward, it's like it's being present so that we can move forward, so that we can make tomorrow matter even more. We can have some say in what happens tomorrow. But that's a lot to get into. And so at the heat of the moment, it's not, when things are really intense, it's not like we can just like dive into depth like that. And so I would say when we're having like these deep conversations, it's when things are relatively easygoing, and then we can talk about things with more ease. Otherwise, if we have like those kinds of conversations at the heat, when things are in the heat of the moment, it feels like a lot of pressure, and that you're trying to push your agenda on them. You're trying to make them learn something when they're not really ready to, like, they're not really in the space to do that. So yeah, just do it. It's like, it's different when you are in a different space to when you are feeling like just like more in your body. And then that Nike slogan is like, just do it. It's, you have to be in the right space. So when you're trying to help out, it's not always the right time to say something like that. So the last thing not to say is, don't say, I'm stressed out too. And usually we're feeling it also, because if your teen is not feeling good and acting out or emotionally just having a hard time, that stresses us out as parents. So it is a lot to really know how you feel without trying to deflect what your teen is trying to say to you and then turn it to you. So in doing that, it makes it what I talked about earlier. You start deflecting, don't make it about you. That's what requests that my kids had. They really want you to listen and have understanding and not always try to fix it. But understanding doesn't mean make their problem your problem, or to almost, it's like they're switching the channel to like, well, my problems are so much bigger than yours. And, that's not really fair. It's not like whose are bigger. It's just honoring each other's experiences. And you can model that by honoring your kid's experience too. And maybe if it feels appropriate and you have to know your kid, you could bring up a situation when you were their age, like, hey, I felt like that too. But don't completely take it away, but to share that, like, okay, you had some understanding at that age. That could feel better than saying like, oh, I know what you're going through because I'm going through the same thing right now with you. Because they're like, no, you're a different age. You have like a different life, responsibilities and things. And even though I know you feel like it's like, but yours are bigger, your problems are bigger. That's not the point. They really want you to hear them. They really want you to understand them. And so it's just hearing them out. And instead of saying I'm stressed out too, again, you could either bring up a situation from when you were that age to show understanding, or just be quiet and let them ask them, for details of how they're feeling. Can you tell me about that? Like, make it open-ended, or if it's like they're just say I'm stressed or I feel really anxious, you can tease it apart. Like, what is it exactly that you feel stressed about? And like, what is it about that is stressful for you? And then again, leave it open. See if they want to talk it out with you. If they may not want to talk about solutions at that moment. Even though they want solutions, they may not want to talk about it with you, but let them know that you are open to it. Hey, if you want to talk about it more, if you want to work through it together, if you want to think about ways to problem solve or to address it, then I would be happy to do that with you, if you want to. So to leave that door open, that they know that they can come to you to talk about things. And it's helpful, like, if you start the conversation when, again, when you're, what I had talked about before, spend quality time during regular activities. So if you can bring up just like regular chatting, about how their day was. And it's hard to just make it, you have to be open, but not too general, because if you just say like, how was your day? You're probably going to get like, good, fine. But ask about their interests. Like, what were they interested in the day? Like, what was it about that day that was interesting? Their music or sports, like music, like, hey, what are you listening to right now? Or if they play music, it's like, what are you working on right now? Ask about it, like, in an interest in what they're doing. And if you kind of do it that way, it's about them, but it doesn't feel like you have like this spotlight on them, the headlights right on them, where the parents are like staring at you, and then they don't want to share. They kind of clamp up. And I've done that too, where my kids like shared some music that they were doing, and then I got overly excited about it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. So they don't want like too intense of a reaction. What a safe space is where your emotions are a bit more neutral, where it's like, I can show support without being too intense, where it's like, oh my gosh, that's so great. Or it's like, oh, when you feel like, oh no, what happened? Like when they're little and they fall and you're like, oh my gosh, then they were fine. And then they see your face and they start crying. So it's the same as they get older. So if you have like more of a neutral reaction that's still supportive, and it could be like, hey, that's cool. What made you think about writing that? Like, how did it come together? What was your inspiration? Like, ask about the music, ask about their interest, instead of just reacting. Because the reason why the over response of like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, when they were sharing something new with me, felt like too much, is because you have to remember the flip side. Like, what if one day they share something with you and you don't respond that way? Then they feel like they didn't succeed, or there's something wrong with it. So, and I'm not saying that you can never have emotion. But when they're sharing something that's sort of vulnerable for them, that's something new, that's about how they're feeling, about how they're thinking about things, about stresses and anxiety, then a neutral space feels non-judgmental and safe for them. So I'm with you. I hear you, parents, and I'm here. If you have any suggestions of what's worked for you, then please share with us in the comments. If there's things here that you didn't like and you feel like didn't work for you, please share in the comments, because we are all here to grow through it. And I'm going to be inviting some friends of mine who are also experts in the field of anxiety and stress, and to continue this conversation, some for the kids, some for the adults. And together we're going to come up with all different ideas. So we have so many tools that are available for us to use. And so when we have these intense moments, it's like, oh, okay, I remember this one thing, this tool, or it's like, okay, I remember, don't say that, but here's another way to approach it. So try it out, see how it goes, and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. So thank you all for joining me. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know where you're from in the comments. I always like to know where in the world you are. And I will see you next week, 11 a.m. Wednesday, EST. And next week, I'm going to be talking to my friend and colleague, Maria Alfaro, about some updates on trauma release exercises. So I'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your week and lots of love to you.